You're welcome back on the show. It's still Rise and Shine Daily, coming to you from the stables of Spectrum Television. Right now, we have a guest in our midst.
Of course, we have been joined today by a tourist product development expert. He is the MD CEO of Akwa Tourism Development Company Limited. Mr. Joseph Utin, so good to have you in our studios today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good morning and Merry Christmas.
Ah, you look so Christmasistic.
Thank you. You look so too.
I would like to add that yes, also touristic.
In nature.
Oh,
in nature.
Fantastic compliment.
I'm already complimenting him. I like his posture.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You're welcome. So we've been
so.
talking about the heat of the pandemic on tourism, the effect it has, you know, on tourism. I'm talking about the impact of COVID-19 on tourism. So I'll quickly ask you, how has tourism, COVID-19 impact been on your business?
Well, let me first of all appreciate the Spectrum team. My first time being here.
Welcome.
I've heard so much of
Sorry.
what you've been able to do, and I think this is a premium establishment for not just my state, for the region, and indeed the country.
Thank you, sir.
We cannot do too much without selling, communicating information to our people to create sufficient awareness so that we live better. Well done, and thank you, Spectrum.
You're welcome, sir.
I've written all I have done in the last more than 20 years is tourism. And I must say that in the last 20, 30 years, we've never had a season as bad as the pandemic, COVID pandemic season, and it was a serious blow to the industry. Tourism thrives when there is movement. Tourism thrives where there is cultural exhibitions. Tourism thrives where there is exchange of information that has to do with medical challenges that is beyond what a certain nation or culture can handle. Tourism thrives when there is sport engagement. Tourism thrives when you have a need to just take a holiday and suntan outside of your regular environment. Tourism thrives when you want to taste something that is new, like a
That's correct.
Absolutely. That's actually come to a point where we couldn't appreciate such endowment in nature because of pandemic, and so it was a very huge blow to the industry. At a point where it started, it was okay, fine, maybe prayers, maybe some activities within the medical sector could arrest, but it gone beyond a situation where you could just sit, watch, and talk. Everybody had to go into the rooms and shut down movement, and so it was a huge loss to countries, huge loss to those in the aviation transportation industry, huge loss to the hospitality industry, huge loss to people who actually want to source education outside of the country. And so it was indeed a situation we don't want to repeat itself. Going by data, about was predicted at the time it started that about 58 to 72% at the time we would have, wounded down would have been the losses, but at the end, it was far more than that as the entire country, entire global economy was, brought down. But I think we are trying to reboot, and we are looking for a way forward through domestic tourism.
With all that you have enumerated, that's quite an impact on tourism.
Absolutely so.
Would you say there's still prospect? Again, is there prospect again for tourism?
Absolutely. There is prospect. In fact, you can't even survive without tourism. So we are not talking about is there going to be prospect. We must navigate out prospect. We must find a way out, to create prospects, because people must move. We must seek medical support from outside of a regular environment when we are sick. We must begin to plan to win souls for those who are into church planting. We must get out of the country to begin to win souls for Christ. There's this prospect. I also see a situation where those in the medical sector are researching, coming out with vaccines that will bring down the tempo of the hazards created by the pandemic, and that will also make opportunity for tourism to resume. While waiting for international tourism to resume, we should also be looking inwards. It is time for us to look at situations where people, like in Akwa Tourism, we should look at visiting attractions, should encourage domestic tourism. Domestic tourism should be encouraged. In Akwa Ibom State alone, we have about 74 sites, very attractive sites, that is still in a very bad shape. But I think if we start encouraging domestic tourism, visit those sites, create awareness for those sites, take what's the TV platform name?
SpectrumTv.
Spectrum team to begin to visit the Bauran, begin to visit the oldest Catholic church that is resident around this neighborhood, begin to visit the Fayangosu, where the last slave boat was, begin to visit where Amalgamation of Nigeria was declared, begin to visit where Mary Slessor lived and died for twins, but begin to visit places, you know, where you have monkey talking human language like the monkey sanctuary and lots more, slave merchant warehouses, slave bridge of no return, the longest sandy beach like Ibanoa Beach. I think we can reject tourism within the state. First, then we can now wait when the outbound region.
All right, let's jump right into what you just said. You talked about domestic tourism, yes, which is pretty much one of the things I was going to bring up. Okay. But then again, you say something very emphatic about the fact that it would be nice if we could have these things, these domestic tourism sites looked at again. Now, what are the mitigating factors as to not making that happen?
Well, I think first is what you are doing now. We need to talk about it so we can win investors, number one. Number two, we need to also have government interest in this area because this is policy driven. Okay. If venture capitalists must begin to look at how to revamp the amalgamation house and government policy is not friendly, they will leave. So it is government that takes the front, the driving seat. Then those who promote the image of the nation will look, or the country or the state will look in the direction of where the investment interest of the government is directed. That way it makes it easier for investors to come, they get to look in the direction.
Okay, now let's take a look at the technology. Technology, they say, is a blessing in disguise. Okay. So now, are we now looking at virtual travels into, you know, all these tourist sites, since the pandemic is actually restricting, you know, and also making sure that we have travel bans in some countries? So how are we going to take, you know, a hold of technology? How are we going to make use of technology to enhance our, you know, tourist sites?
So much can be done through technology, just documentation, highlighting site, and all of that. And I think my relationship with some stakeholders in tourism, we've started that. But I tell you what, there is a limit to what technology can do. A couple of years back, I brought Google Ultimate Search to Akwa Ibom State, and the site we decided on was Osaka, you know, Borokara. Tell me how much you can sell Osaka on virtual site. It's difficult. Besides, yes, much as we want to appreciate and evolve technology into marketing tourism site, it is a lot different when guests begin to fly, for instance, come and you know, relax at the Ibom Hotel, and you want to go and sample palm wine at Ekbauran, and you want to also appreciate our local cuisines and all of that. There's a chain of effects tied to all of that. First of all, our transporters will benefit in the economies. Palm wine tapas will benefit. Our local cuisine, outlet will also benefit. Then there will be exchange of culture as they bond with the host community. A lot of things happen just within their psychology, and there's this expectation that, okay, but when you are going back, you also go back with a local souvenir that will serve as a reminder each time you think of Osaka, think of Akwa Ibom State, think of Uran. So yes, we are trying to do so much using technology, but that is the much you can do to survive the situation pending when the situation actually gets back to its normal.
Okay, now you rightly mentioned that there's prospect, a lot of it, and if not, it should be generated. Now, putting that in consideration, what do you think should be done differently? Because we understand the pandemic has come, and going by COVID protocols, like if you talk about the beach, you get to find that a lot of people get there. I mean, not necessarily maintain social distancing, of course, but then what do you think can be done differently amidst COVID-19 to still promote tourism?
Some 2 years ago, United Arab Emirates designed African Pavilion. It was supposed to be a 6-month running show where all African continent cultures, arts, crafts was to be on display for as long as that period of time. But because of the pandemic, they shut it down. As soon as the effect waned, They resumed it, and we had to take on that show. It was elaborate. People across the world came. That is as it concerns Dubai. There is Dolby Show in South Africa, in Durban, South Africa. It runs for 3 weeks. It's just for flowers. Flowers for burial, flowers for engagement, flowers for Christmas, flowers for everything flower. The entire world come there to shop. Now, you have to institutionalize a show. Some years ago, we started Okapiswa in Akwa State, or we inaugurated Okapiswa, and there was Orange September in Akwa State, and there have been brands. And if you institutionalize that, if you make that a regular event in a country, in a state, irrespective of the travel ban across the borders, international borders, you will have local attendant. Now, we also remember that you have the yearly Calabar Carnival. Now, if we can have the much we have, persons, if you travel to Lagos, you see the kind of movement in the Balogu market environment. You go to, Utako, you see the kind of engagement. You come to Kwame, you go to Ita market, you see the kind of. So what stops us from fellowshipping culturally? So I think it's just the fact we have, and sometimes government could be very deceptive. If they want to take on tourism, I'm sure can do so much. His government is on the steering seat.
Okay, let's look at the post-COVID era. Now, how can we use this period to reposition tourism? There are a lot of things that needs to be revamped. A lot of things that needs to be invested in. So, in your own words, how can we use this season right now to revamp the tourism?
Can I start from Akwa Ibom State?
Yes, please, go ahead. Start from
in the next few days, we should be rounding off the Christmas village.
Exactly.
And I asked myself, such a fantastic show, such a fantastic design of events for the end of the year, especially for people of Akwa Ibom and the neighboring states. I had expected to see a day for the BBOs, traditional cultural display, including cuisines, arts and craft, everything. Maybe a day for Oro Nation to come and display, not just a day, like a week. It doesn't stop your sales and all of that. Maybe another one house. That's a way to reboot. That's a way to go back. That's a way to generate interest. That's a way to begin to think the direction of looking at your GDP, because all of this comes with a cost.
True.
But maybe designers are going to also look into that direction. That is a professional way to reject the industry post-pandemic, and it pays. People are doing it across the world. I've just mentioned what is happening in UAE. They look at the tick of the club and say, we must not lose this market, and they got back, and people didn't die. The same thing's happening in South Africa, and of course, Oshogbo very soon will happen, and Orugungu will soon happen, and all of that. We need to deliberately engage the sector and make sure it is result and profit-oriented.
All right, very well. We'll take a short break right now because we have quite a number of other questions to ask you. A special one, I'm just going to give you a preamble to it. Some years back, many years back, Plaza was designed in such a way that it would, to a large extent, look more like a tourist attraction, right? But these days, it doesn't quite look it. I'll leave you right there with that look on your face, and
right.
When we come back from the break, we'll continue this conversation. Please stay. It's great to have you back. In case you're just joining in, this is Rise and Shine Daily, reaching from the stables of Spectrum Television. And just so you know, you could follow this conversation on our social media handles on Facebook and Instagram with the handle at SpectrumTvNg, and then the website is www.SpectrumTv.ng. And let's jump right back into the conversation. Just before the break, sir, we were talking, or rather I asked you a question that your face changed, but then again, I'm sure you can handle the question. It has to do with the fact that, many years back, I remember personally, standing at Plaza to snap pictures was a luxury. In fact, it was something you can't beat. And then I also had some of my friends come to town just to see Plaza, to snap pictures at Plaza, but today's story is different. Now, why is that so, and what can be done about it?
Well, in my little knowledge about places like Plaza, you need to first of all think of what it was designed for. The first place, because when the purpose is not gotten, I think abuse becomes inevitable.
True that.
And I think that should be the case of the plaza. Now, I used to know that some years ago, about 5-6 years ago, that the plaza environment was leased to a consultant who was very, very grounded in the issue of managing hubs like that. And I don't know what is going on now. And I can recall at the time that you did not drop a pin and come back and make a complaint. I know that. My very good friend Pius was involved. I think he recently died. Now, so when you see all of that happening, it means that there is no coordination, no effective management. Perhaps there could be issues because I know that in time past, when you look at Unity Museum, where currently we host the Christmas village, there was this argument at the point whether it should belong to the Ministry of Environment, should belong to the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, and you know, issues like that. It took time, I guess, was resolved at a point. Perhaps that's also, could be also the challenge we're having with Plaza. But I tell you what, the Plaza should be designed everywhere around the world that you have fantastic fingers that create attractions and people want to come from the hinterlands to come and get appreciated, like you say, snap pictures, invite friends to sit down for drinks. It is necessary, and I think Victor Atta administration at the time, Obama Victor Atta recognized the need to create, you know, hubs like that, places like that for attraction, for sun tanning, for relaxation, for oldies and those who are very young at heart. Incidentally, perhaps again, subsequent governments that have understood the basis for creating that hub, and so charlatans took over. Now that it is in the news, you're talking about it, I'm sure the government are listening, I'm not in government. They should be able to, first of all, think of security, especially in times like this. It is wrong, extremely wrong, for people visiting Akwa Ibom to begin to complain of loss of phones, loss of items because of a place that can be controlled and should be controlled. I think they are listening and they should quickly do something about that, possibly appoint a consultant to manage the place.
Oh, well, you've talked about you've been in the business of tourism for a while, quite a long time. Now, what would you suggest? Because before you joined us on the show, we practically mentioned some of the possible places that have been abandoned that could be, you know, revitalized to boost tourism. You know, basically what we have as tourism is mostly towards the end of the year in December. What would be your suggestion with regards to boosting tourism? Maybe on January, February, March, they could actually say, make someone say, okay, I'm on leave, I want to visit Akwa Ibom because I'm on leave. I want to go and rest there, I want to go and relax there, I want to go and see what's going on there.
All right, I think a few things I must point out is, one, there should be a deliberate attempt by the government to develop a functional tourism master plan for the state. We need to look into tourism forcefully. We need to look deliberately and said, okay, fine, in the next 10 years, this is what we are going to be doing, and it can be, we start in January 2022 and it stretch into 10 years, so we trench it. The first 3 years, perhaps, we are going to look at beaches, beachfront like Oron Beach, Ibono Beach, Isnobolo Beach, and there are plenty of Kobodi in it too. We look at that 3 years, of course, you know, of A2. Kobodi 2 is where we have the licensed boat regatta site from the federal government, and it has not taken place in the last how many years right now because there is no forceful interest, there's no involvement of the government to drive that traffic of boat regatta event into Akwa Ibom State. That's a very serious, big money-spending investment. Then we should also look at managing maybe biodiversity. You know, we have virgin forests like Usaka Virgin Beach, you have in Oron Nation, you have in Itu, you have in Ikonologolgob, you have plenty of places, and there's no management of those conservation sites and the wildlife. It is very important. We should morph into culture. I recall some years ago too when we had to launch Nidianyan. That was part of the component of the Orange September, and it was so well received that foreign hospitality firms come to endorse local food. Imagine if we had continued in that stretch, what would have happened? And so there's a need for a functional tourism development master plan for the state. Where that happens, government will know where to invest money per time. That's number two. Number one. Number two is, like I said, there's a need to consistently throw our culture up. You know, in January to February to March, this is what we should do. And that should concern the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. There's a need for a tourism calendar, where in the month of December, Christmas Village. In the month of February, something for the lovers. In the month of March, April, maybe we go back to see our twins' birth. You know, none of that happened. Thereafter, again, we go back to the amalgamation side. We begin to cry for the brothers and sisters that were taken on slavery. We morph to something bigger. Then maybe go to regatta. So there's a need for a tourism calendar. Okay. Where that is done, then we need to have a regulatory agency that regulates movement into this site. At the same time, have as a component of that, a brand marketing component. People that begin to market. You turn your TV, you see India and die. You wouldn't die, you just go this. So we need to position our tourism in that light, such that when people, you know, fly from wherever they come from and land Victor International Airport, they begin to see, you know, sights resplendent at the arrival lounge. Like I was going to suggest, I walk into this place, deep agriculture of rural people. I've not seen a single picture of this. I'll challenge you as I live. Get a picture. Let me walk into this place and begin to see, you know, the fire almost water that stopped slavery in Akwa Tourism in this part. Let me begin to see where Lord Lugard lives. It's called Marina Boat. When you have Marina Boat right now, that's where Lord Lugard lived. And Mwabata was the woman who saved, and she was from there. You know, you need to traverse that ankle that takes you back to Tinapa and Calabar for administration, ease of administration. We need to have those images in this place. If you don't have, consult me.
Well noted, sir. Okay, as we begin to wrap up.
Yes.
Now, as a tourism development expert.
Yes, product development expert.
Okay, thank you. Product development expert. How prepared is Nigeria to collaborate with other countries to, you know, boost our tourism vis-a-vis the economy of Nigeria?
My question to that will be, we need to improve on our security. Okay. Very important. We need to improve on our security. Very, very important. You need to also separate the Ministry of Culture and Tourism from the Ministry of Information. They should stand alone. You need to make sure that Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation is manned by people of very, very knowledgeable people in the industry. We need to look at NACA, National Council for Art and Culture, and make sure that people also drive the cultural properties of Nigeria are very experienced, and they should also collaborate with other nations of the world whose cultures are very, very marketable and acceptable. We need to also make sure that, I don't know, the persons who are involved in managing image of the country should be able to position Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria, South Nigeria, and every state that has something to look out for as tourism is concerned, to promote them and deliberately do so.
Thank you so much.
Okay, many thanks for joining us on the show. I'm sure we had our viewers had a robust time, and maybe government will speak a thing or two from the conversation. And thank you very much for being on the show. We've been speaking with Joseph Utin, a tourism product development expert, and of course he seems to have a lot of expertise on that ground. We hope to look forward to having you again some other time.
I appreciate this. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll go on a short break. When we return, Rise and Shine continues. Do stay with us.